Good morning. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, May 16th to order. This is being conducted in a hybrid fashion, as is allowable by legislative action. So with that, first order of business, pledge of allegiance. Charlie, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A little bit of a little camera lag. Item 2, public forum, limited to 3 minutes on any agenda item. Is there anyone wishing to address the board? Anyone? Bueller? We got some laughs. People are awake.
Or old.
Exactly. All right, hearing none, let's move on to item 3 rather. Approve of minutes of the May 2nd, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll second.
Second, comments, questions, etc. No, look good.
No.
Look good. Hearing none, let me try your minds. Select woman Renner.
Aye.
Select woman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 4, Finance Director, Mary Jane Malvasi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to start with revenues.
Good place.
So at the end of April, we are at 100.1% collected of our revenues, which is great news for our budget this year. Happens to be the same percentage as 2 years ago, fiscal year 2020. I'd just like to note that we do, as you can see from the report, we have many of our departments that have brought in more than their budget. I do have 3 we've talked about in the past that have the potential of not covering their revenue, and that would be finance for interest. But although I'm hoping to be very close, the police department, due to a lower amount of special duty, and park and rec for reasons we've talked about at the seniors at the community center, not having as much rental income. So other than those 3 items, I expect everyone to come in within their budget.
Do you know offhand, Mary Jane, whether or not the camps and that type of thing have been back up to speed at Park and Rec?
I believe I heard from Rick last week that numbers were down for the camp, but I hate to quote those numbers for you. Of course, that all runs through the program account, so the items aren't here in the general fund.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you, Mary Jane. It's obviously been fairly unpleasant for everybody as interest rates rise and look like they're going to continue to rise. But maybe the one good thing that comes out of that is your budget item will eventually increase. Do you have some projection on when you'll start seeing increases there? And what do you, I mean, it's a little early to start talking about the budget, but maybe not.
Yeah.
So do you have any projections?
Well, unfortunately, what we find with interest rates through all of our investments is that they drop really quickly and take 3 years to grow back. So I do hope that our revenue will continue to see growth, but I do not anticipate those large numbers that we saw a few years back to come anytime soon.
Okay, so fair to say, as we get to the budget, maybe a modest increase in that line, but nothing dramatic.
Correct.
Okay. It's funny how that works.
Yep.
Anything else on finance? I mean, revenues?
No.
No? Okay, next.
All right, we'll move on to expenditures. At the end of April, we are at 81.4%, which is right in between where we were the last couple of years. All of our departments are pretty much running where we would expect them to be. I have already spoken about the 3 items that are over budget. Those are all departments that have money coming in from other sources and will be made whole by the end of the year. Other than that, I don't have anything new to report on expenses.
Any questions on expenses? No?
No.
All right. Hearing none. Medical?
On the medical, I am projecting at this point a modest $26,000 surplus. I'd like to talk a little bit about admin for the month of April. You'll see that it is at only $75,000. We have budgeted within our expenses under admin this fiscal year are a number of credits that we receive back from pharmaceutical companies. And those all came to fruition during the month of April. So as you can see, bottom line, we're only over by $50,000 in admin so far. So these credits are budgeted in, and so they kind of average the whole year out. So we just see it this one time, but we did expect those to come in at this point. So other than that, catastrophic claims, we have 19 members over the $75,000 threshold. We're up to 7. I think it was 7 last month as well, but we're at 7 over the 150,000, bringing us to 25.8% of the oh, actually I messed that up. I can see we did, it's not reflected down below with the percentage, but so the percentage would be a little bit higher than 25%. We're at $602,000 covered. So I will fix that before this evening.
Okay. All right. Anything further on that? No. Okay, MJ, thank you for that. I was going to take this up under new business. We might as well cover it at this point. As a result of the legislature having passed the budget a week and a half ago, they included in it a reduction in the automotive or the car tax. They limited the tax on motor vehicles to 32.46 mils, and there seems to be some magic to 32.46 as opposed to any round number, and that was that the estimates out of OPM were that would require $100 million in return to the municipalities for the lost revenue for motor vehicle taxes above the 32.46. The preliminary runs have been done for each municipality. We are, I think it's about $187,000 would be short on on our normal collection at the mill rate, the current mill rate, which was recently set by the Board of Finance as a result of the successful referendum. And the state, in its infinite wisdom, is using the 2020 grant list, not the 2021 grant list, to determine the reimbursement rates to the municipality. So we're only getting about 37,000 back from the state, and so that leaves us with a bit of a hole. The state also allowed us to go back any municipalities who have already set their mill rate for the upcoming year to do so. So the Board of Finance will be going this evening, I believe, we'll be resetting the mill rate only for motor vehicles. That is the exception. So the mill rate will stay the same. In discussions Mary Jane, myself, and Chairman Mike Ailes have had, and we are not going to adjust the overall mill rate to accommodate that $130,000 or $140,000 shortfall for a couple of reasons. One, as most of you know, we do not budget for supplemental motor vehicle taxes, which is part of our normal budgeting procedure. So, and we feel as if that the revenues will be substantial enough based on our collection rates that we do not need to reset the mill rate.
Is that, maybe I'm being counterintuitive, but does that mean that the actual consequence is going to be that the motor vehicle tax for our taxpayers is gonna be greater?
No, it's gonna be
Slightly
32,
less.
slightly less.
Slightly.
Oh, no, the motor vehicle
No,
tax
I'm talking
for,
about this makeup year.
the-
So are
this-
we gonna try to make up the 130 by adjust our rate, or
No.
it's fixed back to the 32 something?
no, we're not gonna adjust our rate, which would require us raising the mill rate on everybody,
To
right?
make up for the shortfall.
So we're not gonna do that. We're gonna leave it at the current, what is it, 33.62? Is that the number, MJ?
Yeah.
The new- Okay, so we're gonna leave it there. And we anticipate that we will, as we have traditionally done, we have a surplus in our revenue because our collections are traditionally higher than already, and we just saw evidence of it here. So we're going to leave it as it is. Now, as you are all aware, this may be a temporary solution because we have revow coming with, as of effective October 1st, the new grant list will be the revow grant list. And I think you guys have heard me talk ad nauseum about the spreadsheet that I'm keeping on sales prices versus appraised prices. I now have a sample size of about 500 transactions over the last 14 or 15 months. And the average sales price is 35% higher than the current appraised price. All right. Now, again, this is, not to be quoted on these numbers, but if that correlation could wind up dropping our mill rate by, 25, 25 to 30%. So that would, theoretically, that would bring us well below the 32.46 cap. And this becomes a moot point for several years until the legislature does something else and perhaps drops it even lower. But so, MJ, what did I miss?
Interesting to know what 130, whatever the difference is, calculates to in the rest of the taxes across the board, or what everybody's tax increase technically would have been. I mean, it's just such a classic. I mean, it isn't changing the cost, it's just changing where they're taxing.
It's 9 basis points. We've already, I knew someone else was going to be curious about that. And MJ and I, MJ worked the numbers.
That's almost a full percentage.
So that would have taken it from the 1.94% tax increase to a 2.03% tax increase. Am I correct, MJ? My numbers.
It's not a percent.
It's 9 basis.
2.13.
It's
2.13.
0.1%.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
The people that benefit here are Hamden, to take one example, where I hear it every day. Big cities
Yeah.
where the mill rates are in the 40s.
Right.
But they don't benefit really,
legislature
because the
job-
cost of running the communities doesn't change, it just changes where they're taxing.
Well, except that they're subsidizing it from the state. For the most part,
Well,
or apparently not. I thought it was just
Apparently
100%.
not, right.
But I wonder how it's gonna work in those municipalities. They're gonna go through the same thing, and they're gonna be losing
they're
a million,
They're losing money.
and they're gonna find only 300,000.
Right,
from the state.
so there are discussions about further implementer bills to alleviate that exact.
Imagine people are gonna be going.
Okay,
And
yeah,
there's always something.
so I just, folks,
More phone calls.
that's, yeah, I just wanted everybody to be aware of that, and at this point, the 3 of us feel as if the appropriate action is to let it ride, so, and we're gonna.
Yeah, we can absorb it this year,
Right.
they're worth the recalculation of it, but it just,
Well,
the logic of it, it
And,
just.
and I was just wondering, what is an individual going to really save on their car tax? I realize that everybody has different, based on the age and value of their car, but the savings to each individual isn't going to be much, is it?
no, it is not. No, it is not. So we are at what, 33.62. So we're talking about what was it? 1 point, we're just
And even
one, yeah, a little over 1 mil. So on a, the $20,000 car, $20.
Yeah.
Not
Again, that's here for us.
Right.
It's funny you say $20,000 car. I read a story this morning, the new electric Ford pickup truck $90,000 to get it all the way.
Oh,
And that's if you don't want, tires or something.
Now, that's, I got everything imaginable, but the point is, some vehicles are
Oh.
$60,000,
I
$70,000
was looking
easy.
to buy, it's just,
Anyway,
Well, and then just,
not a big deal either way here.
yeah, there was another piece in that legislation that I haven't yet done a full analysis to understand the impact, but they also are changing the way cars are assessed. Our cars are rated. For years, they've used Kelly Blue Book methodology. The valuation methodology will now go to a straight 20-year depreciation based off of MSRP.
Years.
Yeah, a 20-year depreciation schedule off of the MSRP. So,
not very many people, although the concept, especially with electric cars, is that they're nothing more than an appliance.
right,
But a 20-year-old car, I mean, it's a stretch.
right. Well, a 20-year-old car isn't valued very highly on the Blue Book value either. So,
Not a matter of value. I mean, I drive a 20-year-old car, so I can brag a little bit.
Bit.
There aren't very many people that
you
do.
have one of those antique plates? You qualify for that. Not you, the car.
I think it's 25 years.
Is it 25?
I don't know. I take enough flack about it, so.
Well, okay. So anyway, we're going to get through this with minimal disruption.
That is
the message.
exactly the anticipation. So, right. MJ, what did I miss? Did I cover it?
I just wanted to add that we also took a slight hit on our pilot revenue of about $40,000. So between the two items, our revenue loss is about $220,000.
Because of the car tax or because of?
No.
No. Just legislative action. We were receiving less in pilot.
And we up until last year had not received pilot in some time, if I'm not mistaken. So the legislation was passed in 2021, extended pilot payments to some of the municipalities that weren't being covered. This was a tiered schedule that was put in place, so the more distressed communities receive a higher percentage of the reimbursement model.
That's a lot like the tax cut that Hartford's been bragging about. Really isn't a tax cut, it's a tax change.
Right? Okay. Anything else for finance at this point? Okay, MJ, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 5, Economic Development Director Sherry Cody received the monthly report. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see that? My PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So similar to last month, I'll start with our property enhancement grant applications. This month, the EDC did approve 4 of those. So I've given you sort of the project costs for this batch was only $3,478. 3 of the 4 applicants have requested less than the $1,000 threshold that they could have requested. And then the total project cost across all of the grants so far is over $60,000. Our investment there is $10,478, with the businesses investing more than $50,000. And I'll just run through the 4 projects so you can see. The first Congregational Church is going to actually repair this signage, not replace it. My note here that says new signage is incorrect. It's actually repairing and painting the existing signage. Evergreen Fine Crafts will be removing their window boxes and replacing them with benches. Tracy Brent Collections, her boutique there on Whitfield, she will be replacing her signage. And then she also has applied for a project at her Broad Street office to replace and paint the window trim and the door trim. Any questions on the grant applications that were approved?
Not the ones that were approved, Sherry. We keeping this grant open until such time as we exhaust the funds?
Correct, yes, until we've spent the $25,000. And I do get inquiries every week from people who are just finding out about the grant program. Sometimes it's a new business. I'll talk about one of those new businesses in just a moment, but people are still becoming aware of it and becoming interested in it. And I think we will get more applications. It's slow, but I can see, keeping this open until, the funds have expired.
Sherry, have all of the grants been approved?
We have one grant applicant that was not approved, the EDC, because the committee didn't think that the application met the criteria that they had put forth with the guidelines.
Okay. Thank you.
Gary, could you share with us, not now, but maybe during the week, the criteria? And the reason I bring that up is, while I appreciate today's grants in particular, their enhancements and that type of thing, do the criteria address expanding business or enhancing business other than, cosmetic type things?
It's pretty much cosmetic. It can be parking lot improvements, ADA access. It really was for property enhancements. I'll send you the guidelines so that you can read all of the content. Go ahead.
Has there been any thought to expanding either this grant program or even another one for expansion and that type of thing?
Yeah, sure. Let me take that. As you might recall, we approved $25,000 in ARPA funds to the Shoreline Chamber of Commerce for exactly that, which was business coaching and consulting to help businesses develop their model. And actually, Sherry, that's a good point. We probably need to bring Dee back in at some point for an update on that program. So again, and that was designed to help businesses, expand or improve their brand, improve their model through the use of, it's almost like SCORE.
Right.
But this was a little bit different, as you might recall from Dee's presentation to us. So we'll get an update on that for you, Chuck.
I think these are good enhancements. They benefit everybody, but I think expanding business, coming out of COVID makes some sense.
Makes some sense. Great. Okay, Sherry, thank you.
Very good.
Again.
Okay, so moving on, just a couple of business updates and ribbon cuttings that we do participate along with the Shoreline Chamber. We have a new business, and Artistic Touch, out on Boston Post Road, and that we celebrated a grand opening and ribbon cutting with them. The New Haven Middlesex Association of Realtors moved in out there, same location, out on Boston Post Road during COVID. And so we're finally getting around to celebrating their ribbon cutting with them. Belle Bee Cafe, brand new business in town, took over where Java Hut was on Church Street, celebrated their ribbon cutting. And then we do have a couple more ribbon cuttings coming up, a new business out the same area, out on Boston Post Road. In Bloom Floral Warehouse will be celebrating this Thursday. And then where the old Shift Cycle was, right here downtown, Avenge Fitness is moving in there, and she'll be having a big celebration on July 1st. Any questions on the business updates before I move on?
I think we're good.
Okay, great. A few months ago, I mentioned to you that we went through an application process with CEDAS, the Connecticut Economic Development Association, to apply to be recognized as a best practices community in economic development and planning. And they did let us know that we are being awarded with a silver level. You can see here, I've added some bullet points to talk about some of the categories of the questions that we had to fill out in communications and marketing and so forth. And so I was excited to receive that news, shared it, of course, with Matt, and the town will be awarded a plaque and at some event that they're scheduling for probably next month. So that was good news.
That was excellent news, and Sherry deserves the credit on this for having develop some practices and some programs, particularly as we've come through some of the COVID-related activities. So I think Sherry deserves all the credit for getting us to this point. And also in the way she's worked with the Economic Development Commission, that they've teamed up on a couple of these initiatives. So congratulations to not only the town, but particularly to Sherry for getting this award.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Just a quick update on some developments. You probably have been following the Hubbard Road project, did work its way through inlands and wetlands, and is now working with planning and zoning on their public hearings. And then new to our agenda is 397 Church Street, a new medical office building. And they're currently working through design review committee before they go to planning and zoning.
Sherry, where is 397 Church Street?
397 Church Street will abut the Guilford Arts Center,
Oh, okay. Okay.
if that helps.
That building that's already there, that red
There
building?
is, yes, I believe it's a historical house, a historic house there. Jamie can help me out if
This
you
was-
will. Jamie?
Yep,
This
it's I'm sorry, Matt, excuse me.
Yeah, this was formerly Gail Katowski's law office.
Yes, okay, all right, I got it, thank you. Thank you.
Just that building, they're gonna build a building.
They're going to build a building, they're tearing that down, so.
And then finally, I'll leave you with just a, you're familiar probably with IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Connecticut will be receiving $6 billion. I believe it's over the next 5 years. I've given you some bullet points here of some of the items that can be used or can be supported with these dollars. Last month, I was asked about collaboration with Madison. And so this has sort of spurred a conversation with both Peggy and Matt. And so what we're going to do is pull together a meeting with our 2 town planners, our 2 town engineers, our 2 first select people to talk about explore the possibilities of doing something jointly, whether it's road improvements or one of these items, but to actually have that conversation to see if there's an opportunity for Madison and Guilford to participate together with some grant funding.
Jerry, just let me add to that. That $6 billion is not all going to be made available to municipalities for projects. A significant portion of that is dedicated to the state DOT and state projects. There are a series of competitive grants that municipalities will be able to apply for. The thinking from the Lamont administration, in the person of Mark Boughton, the former mayor of Danbury, who has been tasked with managing the IIJA process, is that just as Sherry said, municipalities should look to bundle or consolidate, because these are competitive grants and we're competing against entities across the country. So there are discussions taking place at the COG level, as well as and the Department of Transportation and the Department of Revenue Services, which Mark Boughton heads up. They are bringing resources on board at the state level to assist the COGs and municipalities with grant writing and developing projects for grants. But there is a strong movement to bundle these items together. So, for instance, we have several items under that we're considering with the for safe streets. All right. That is one of the IIJA buckets that you can apply for. So does it make sense to, instead of Guilford applying for $500,000 or $1 million, does it make sense for the COG to apply for $15 or $20 million that covers 15 communities and will stand up in a national stand up better when competing nationally?
Well, we might even be able to coordinate, since a lot of it is going to be directed at DOT. Maybe this is the time to get serious about a plan for 146.
146 is well underway. That the state has As you may recall, we got the COG to initiate the corridor study. The corridor study was well on its way until some very concerned citizens asked that we do something beyond that. The state has made a commitment to develop a management plan for Route 146 that is currently underway, similar to the management plan that exists for the Merritt Parkway, to protect that as a scenic roadway. That project got delayed a little bit because of COVID, but it is still viable. And that project and the report should inform exactly what you just said. Where can we go? Where can we find some funding? Now, you may remember the state had allocated about $15 million for a bridge on 146, which that also based on citizen participation wound up being revised by the state of Connecticut. We have not yet seen the new design, but we've seen a preliminary. It's more culvert based than it is a bridge, and that will be part of the management plan for Route 146 if the state is committed to doing it.
Yeah, I understand the concerns about scenic roads of 146, and I agree with them. But I also am concerned about pedestrian access, whether it be bikers, walkers, or whatever. And, you know, maybe this is the time when the plans seem like they're in flux. You know, maybe we got to look at it as two projects, a road project, because you don't want to improve the road to the point where it becomes even more of a raceway. I mean, you keep the scenic area, the scenic aspect, and keep the traffic calming aspect, but maybe, you know, parallel to it or around it, you know, develop a pedestrian access area so that it would work for both. I mean, that, you know, they're really a conflict, the pedestrian access and the traffic calming.
Right. Yeah, that's a different, like many roads in Guilford, that's a very difficult road to.
Everybody wants to enjoy it.
Right.
Both for racing it.
Right, but some of the techniques they talk about, which is narrowing the lanes, has a psychological effect on people to slow down. But if that creates additional buffer on the road, that works.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking of just a separate, you know, not pathway, roadway, whatever words you want to use. You know, I don't know.
The stakeholder
You
missing.
have to be a little creative there to address all of the issues.
Does this sound like Greenway Trail again, Charlie?
I was trying real hard to avoid, you know, that kind of stuff, but I mean, you know, everybody loves, you know, I think pedestrian access between Branford and Guilford, you know, I think connecting to Hammonasset would be great. But there's got to be a way that it works for everybody.
We'll continue to monitor the progress of the state and work with them towards those objectives. Okay, Sherry, were you done at that point?
I was, yes, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
I just had a couple of quick questions that people ask me things and they think I know, Sherry, and I don't know if you know, but here, this is an opportunity. Some of these questions, I mean, they're quick questions. If you can't share it, then I totally understand. Is the restaurant on Whitfield going to be open soon, Prime?
That is a good question, and I can't answer it.
Okay.
It was
And-
supposed to be this month. I have not heard any updates since probably a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Do we have any knowledge of what might be going into the former Purple Bear?
No, I do not know that either.
Okay. And the same probably for Walmart, right? That's still way up in the air.
So Walmart, we are in close contact with the property management company and the realtor, and I can't really share any information, but they are very much being courted by retailers looking to move into that space.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's encouraging. That's
Yes.
great.
Mhm.
And then my final question is, someone told me, and this could be completely, I don't know, but that the area that's called Strawberry Hollow on Route 1, the farm, that's somebody said that was going to be made into condominiums.
I have not heard that one.
I hadn't heard it either. Okay.
Hopefully not.
If I could just interject on that one, it's Jamie Stein, Town Planner. It's across the street. There is a proposal. So on the side of Route 1 where the Red Roof Inn is, across from the Strawberry Hollow Farm,
Oh,
there
okay.
is a
That makes-
proposal for a
Okay.
condominium complex, which is called Strawberry Hill Preserve. So,
Okay, thank you,
Oh,
Jamie.
that-
'Cause It
You're
seemed a
welcome.
little,
Preserves.
that whole thing seemed a little
Better than
odd.
jelly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you both.
Thinking of
Boy, that's gonna be, I mean, that'll be like 4 or 5
Right.
multi-unit projects. It could change the complexion of this community.
Absolutely can. And Jamie, correct me if I'm not wrong, but there might have been 2 projects on that side of Route 1, housing projects, not including the one directly across from the rock pile.
Right, so further up towards Branford, there was a zone change that was approved in an area there, but we haven't seen them come back to discuss the proposal for multifamily, but that was the intention.
And Charlie, you're absolutely right. There are a significant number of projects that are underway that could result in adding housing stock in excess of close to 250 to 300 units total over the next. Well, actually, affordable housing one is 100 units itself. The Village Gate West across from the rock pile is another 100 units. State Street is what, 25 to 30 units. We've got a dozen units going on down on Whitfield Street. The project Jamie just mentioned is another 30 units, and I'm probably missing some, so.
I just foresee, to me, the changes that are potentially 5-10 years down the pike when these units are all full will change the demographics of this community. I see it as much a change as the turnpike. I mean, there are good things and bad things that come with it and different demands of the demographic. I mean, especially if it's a younger, whether it be families or even single professionals, and that type of thing. I think it will change the demographic, and I think, it could be a great thing. We gotta be ready for it. It's things that they're gonna have demands, whether it be restaurants and recreational facilities, and gotta be ready. Jamie's ready.
I think that's a great segue, although we have Cliff in between, because between Jamie's discussion about affordable housing, which plays into that discussion. So, all right, well, Sherry, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
You got it. Item 6, Board of Education Director of Operations Cliff Gurnham. 6.1 would be to consider and take possible action on change orders for the Guilford Lakes HVAC replacement project. Good morning, Cliff.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. This change order is made up of actually 3 change order requests. The first one is change order number 9, which is actually changing out 59 existing wall sensors and then programming the new wall sensors to interact with both the heat pumps and then the perimeter heat. So it will make the system work much more efficiently, as well as reducing the amount of staff interaction with their thermostats, which create numerous problems with the heating system. Secondly, we have to add controls to the return fans throughout the school. Presently, there is only one control, and it turns all the fans in the entire school. So this is very inefficient, especially if we're only operating one section of the building or the gym by turning on all the exhaust fans, all the heating, or all of the. And then lastly, we're fabricating a couple of new filter racks. There's a couple of heat pumps that don't have built-in filter racks on the return side. So these filter racks would prevent contamination on the coil. So the change orders themselves have been reviewed by the Standing Building Committee. They have made the recommendation to move forward, award the work to Action Air Systems, who's the contractor presently doing the project, in the total amount $41,476.43. We do have plenty of funding remaining in the balance from the referendum for the project in over $2 million.
Cliff, just a quick question. That's a significant balance. Well, no, the change order is 40, but the balance of 2,297, was that for all of the HVAC projects or just this one alone?
That was for the total bond itself. I didn't have a breakdown when I did this of ours. I believe we still have probably close to $500,000 to $1 million. This project came in, I believe, way under the anticipated budgets when we did the project.
Okay, Charlie, I know the question's coming, so.
Yeah, I can't, and looking at these change orders, I mean, how can any of these be defended as not being a necessary part of the system from day one?
They are definitely, I agree with that. However, initial scope was to do a one-for-one replacement and replace the components within them. And then when we got deeper into the project and started looking at how the building was running, it made sense to make improvements on the control side as well, so that we can save energy in the future.
Yeah, I'm not arguing the logic. I'm arguing the timing of the logic. I mean, I agree with everything you said, but going into it, whether you and your department or the engineers and consultants, you can't replace one part of a brake system when you got it all torn apart. You got to replace the whole thing or bring it up to speed so that the pieces integrate properly. And, it's an argument that I've had before. And I just wish that when projects were presented to us, we could get the bigger picture, because frankly, I'm just going to be asking more and more. I mean, is this all and everything that we need? I mean, replacing a part of a system and thinking that it's not going to have to be integrated into the system and not including all of those controls or, I mean, a fan. I mean, how can we not know it's going to need a fan?
Well, it has the fan.
Yeah.
Control. We can operate the way it does now and run every single fan in the school when we turn on one section of the building, or we improve that.
Honestly, I have the same question. I mean, you build a 2,000 square foot house, you have 2 or 3 zones in it.
Right.
I'm not sure how somebody could contemplate that we wouldn't need multiple zones in a school that size.
At the outset.
That's the point.
Yeah, but
And the other question I have, if I can just finish, and then I'll stop, is, did we have one of these agents, and there was that term that we've been kicking around? Is there one, refresh my memory. What's the commissioning agent? Do we have an agent on this?
We do have a commissioning agent. He'll be starting shortly. They've just been hired by the town to go through the project.
Did we have one when the project went through the first time?
No,
No.
this is new to us. We were not commissioning projects until basically the fall of 21, when we made the recommendation to start commissioning. And then, I've talked to the standing building committee, and they agree that moving forward, if we have larger projects, that we need to hire the commissioning agent at the beginning of the project, the inception. So before we start the design work, bring in the commissioning agent, because they have the experience and the knowledge to look at the building as it operates versus just the concept of design. The
good news and the bad news about that answer is there's no commissioning agent to blame, but somebody should have spotted this ahead of time.
All right, well, I'm gonna go back to Charlie's point. I'm incredulous. We hire an engineering firm to do an assessment, to replace something, and they don't make recommendations like this at the outset.
I mean, how many?
We have to hire somebody to make sure that
The engineer did his job.
engineer's done his job right, even on the design consideration. It's just,
They're underbidding the job. It feels like they're underbidding the job because they know they can tack on these change orders later. I know you've taken.
well, no. They bid the job as defined by the engineering firm.
Okay.
right? It's not the contractor.
Yeah.
This is the engineering firm
Yeah.
has missed an opportunity to do what is being contemplated here or being proposed here. So, you know, and again, if you think commissioning agents are going to catch those kind of considerations or design, I wouldn't call them flaws, but opportunities to enhance the way the system is running or will run, it baffles me.
Yeah, I'm trying not to think the way you just verbalized, because, you know,
Always the same
in
way.
hindsight, you know, we have this 2020 vision, they say, and it just looks very, very.
What I worry about is would it have been cheaper to do it all on the front end?
That too, and design everything around it, and maybe. I expected more, again. And it wouldn't be so bad if this was the first time. But it just seems to be a trend that we're having that I would like to, for yourself and the standing building committee to take a closer look at going forward with projects, that we're being all inclusive and coordinating any repairs or replacements with the existing system so that, you know, we're not piecemealing things in the end.
I liken it to a household kitchen project, all right? You know, you design it, you put it together, and then all of a sudden, oh, wait, maybe we should have double ovens. All right, well, why
Well,
didn't
that's a change order.
why didn't we
That's-
consider that at the outset?
But even something like that, I mean, yes, you could say, okay, you know, we want to do better, or we want to do a little bit more, or whatever. That's a change order.
Right.
That's where we as a customer are changing our plans going forward. This coordinating it with the rest of the system, to me, should not have been a change order. It should have been standard operating procedure and installing a piece of a system.
And part of that, it's very difficult when you try to take different manufacturers that state that they can interact with other controls, and you try to blend them together. And sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it's more difficult.
But that's what engineers and consultants are for, to not only accept the supplier's statements, to know whether or not they're accurate. I mean, why are we hiring consultants if the consultants are wrong or not guessing right? Whatever the words you want to use.
Yeah. So Cliff, when we do, just let me ask this question, when we do bid openings and assessments, do we engage the engineering firm as part of the team that evaluates the most effective responses? Or do we just?
No, absolutely we do, but this doesn't have anything to do with the response. It would have to do with the engineer
design?
getting into the nitty gritty of all the hundreds and thousands of pages of sequence of operations and determining whether or not certain sequence of operations should be changed to benefit the school. They don't get into those, again, thousands and thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of line items of how the controls work. It's physically impossible. We'd have to bring in the control company and sit down with them and have them pull out every single sequence of operations and evaluate it and then move to the next one. So when do we want the baseboard heat to turn on? What comes on first, the baseboard heat or the air conditioning? Or the heat. There's all these different sequencings that determine how the building operates. So it's not just looking at the components. It a lot of times gets very complicated when you get in the control systems, look at how it's mapped out. It's not cut and dry compared to a house or a small business. Again, you're talking about very extensive programming, and you have different areas with different programmings because you have gyms, you have auditoriums, theaters, libraries, classrooms, special ed rooms. All those could have different, programming depending on how those spaces operate. So, and sometimes, again, they don't get in the sequence of operation. The engineer will state that it's supposed to work a certain way. And once we get into it, sometimes that's not the best way, or it has to be determined that maybe we need to tweak that depending on how the school is operating or how the piece of equipment operates in conjunction with other pieces that we have within the school. So we already had baseboard heating or fin tube radiation. We didn't change that, but we have to make that work well with the new heat pumps and HVAC systems.
But,
So-
isn't that the point though? We knew we had this fin system or whatever in the beginning. We knew we were going to have to coordinate it. So
Correct.
why put off, the determination of how you're gonna do it until after the system's built and come back with a change order? If you knew you had the different systems up front, well, do it, engineer it properly so that they work together. I mean, that's my point, is that, I think we're overdoing this probably today, but, I still struggle with change orders versus an integral part of the initial project.
Again, Charlie, good point. We're beating this to death at this point. Cliff, I think if you would agree with this following statement, the use of a commissioning agent at the front end of a project like this it should help to alleviate some of these change orders. And then the other statement that I'll make is it's not unusual for projects of a couple $1 million to have change orders. It's part of the nature of the industry and the process. So are those two statements accurate?
Absolutely. And again, the percentage of change orders that we have relative to the size of the project, like you just said, Matt, is very small. We're talking, we've had 11 change orders, and I have to add up the total, but it's a very, very, small percentage of the cost of this project that we're paying.
And if I'm not mistaken, every one of these projects has a contingency item in there, right? Line item which says for the things that we don't know. That's why we build contingencies in, right?
Absolutely, correct.
So but I think with the use of a commissioning agent, hopefully we're going to catch some of these things earlier in the process. Now, it may wind up being the same price as, by catching it on the front end, or it may not be, because, subsequent orders sometimes cost more than when you include it in the original.
I agree with everything you said, but the issue I continue to have is change orders versus original part of the project. And if a commissioning agent up front will give us another set of eyes that we can include some of these, fine. If including some of these in the beginning makes for better coordination, i.e. cost savings up front, so be it. So I think you're right. We can talk about this for a long time, but the one change we can make today is to request this agent up front so that, we have somebody to point at saying, why.
I agree. And I think we've already seen a commitment by the Board of Education as well as Standing Building Committee to utilize commissioning agents on every project. But again, this project was approved prior to us having made that
It's all
decision.
logical and everything now, and I understand it all. It's just the semantics of it drive me crazy.
Good. All right. To that end, is there a motion to approve the change orders 9, 10, and 11? And award the work to Action Air Systems in the amount of $41,476.43.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Second,
Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff,
aye.
those in the room? Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 6.2, discuss and take possible action to award the purchase of Guilford Lakes Playground equipment to O'Brien and Sons under state contract number 17 PSC 0081. Cliff?
Yes, so relatively simple request. We are in the process of replacing the Guilford Lake Playground this summer. And we are looking to get a purchase order out to O'Brien and Sons sooner than later due to the lead times of a lot of the equipment. So we are requesting that the Board of Selectmen waive the bid process and award under the state contract. And this project has been reviewed by the Board of Ed. We brought it to their operations committee meeting last week. So they are all on board with the project. So we're looking for approval to award this purchase in the amount of $65,582.30 It is coming from one of our referendums from 2022. So this recent past referendum where we had requested $325,380 for the project.
Are those numbers net of the private fundraising?
So yes, this is in addition to the fundraising. So the Board of Ed has, as of Monday, they have approved accepting another $100 and some odd thousand from the PTO to pay for the grades 1 through 4 play.
Okay.
And what does this mean for the existing equipment that's up there?
The existing equipment will be torn out and disposed of. It's about 30 years old and in poor condition.
You're familiar with that.
I know,
Playground
I know.
around the corner.
Right around the corner.
So Cliff, let me just understand, the total project was 325,000, this is 65,000 and change. There's 100 and some odd thousand you just mentioned from the thing. What's the difference with the 325, 380? Are there other components to this project that are were not part of this?
Correct. So there's quite a bit of site work that will go into the project as well. So we have to tear out all the blacktop, replace the blacktop, we're replacing the basketball hoops. We're putting down poured in place surfacing to make the playground handicap accessible. So there's a lot of other components that are going to be, put into place as we do this project.
Great. To Lou's earlier question though, the total project of 325, 380, did that include the presumed contribution? Is that net of the contribution from the private fundraising?
No,
That's the total cost of the project.
the project, I believe, was 400 and some odd thousand.
Okay, so
Yes.
it is net, it is net.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything further? Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the awarding of the contract for the playground equipment for the Lakes Playground Replacement Project in the amount of $65,582.30 to O'Brien and Sons under state contract number 17 PSX 0081?
I would like to make a motion.
Second
I do have a question.
Yes. Yeah, John, go ahead, question.
Where is the installation of this equipment? Is that part in the balance of in the 325? Because this appears to be just for buying the equipment.
This is, I believe, is the purchase and install of the equipment itself.
Okay, I do not see anything in the contract regarding installation.
So I see attached spreadsheet, which isn't attached to mine.
Yeah, and I didn't print it off. I'm out of the office to look at it, so I'll have to get back to you on that one. I'll confirm whether the amount includes the installation, or it's just the equipment itself, since I don't have that with me.
But you feel confident that if the installation is over and above the equipment cost, that it will be part of the 325 plus?
Yes, we have obviously plenty of funding for the installation if it's not part of this here. I believe, I don't want to talk out of turn, so what I'll do is I'll respond to Matt and let you know. I'll answer.
Yeah, you can confirm it, but given the urgency that you want to get this moving, so that.
Yeah, no, I have no problem moving along. It's just that here we are again.
Good.
I'm sure.
Okay. All right, motion's on the table. Let me try your minds. Select Woman Renner,
Aye.
Select Woman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
That's unanimous. That motion carries. Thank you, Cliff.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Item 7, discuss and take possible action on affordable housing plan as a result of the May 10th, 2022 public hearing. Let me tee this up a little bit. We did have the public hearing last week, and thank you to those members of the Board of Selectmen who participated, but a greater thanks go to Jamie Stein for having pulled this together. Her plate got very full very quickly after coming on board on Valentine's Day.
February 14th.
There you go. And the work that Jamie did immediately and successfully with the consultant and our COG representatives who, as some of you in this room know, we joined forces with the COG to help develop the state required affordable housing plan, which needs to be submitted prior to, I think, June 1st or around by June 1st. Which is why we're asking to act on it today. So Jamie, I'll leave it to you as the subject matter expert.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Jamie Stein, new town planner as of February 14th. As Matt alluded to, the affordable housing plan is in its final draft. And before you, we did have a series of public engagement activities prior to the public meeting that Matt was referencing last week. One of them was a discussion of housing goals, and those are sort of central in the plan, a list of our housing goals moving forward. There was also an engagement around a series of strategies that we could utilize to achieve those goals. This plan was a requirement as of last year's state legislature, and then we will be, after the adoption of the plan, or if you choose to adopt the plan, we will be amending and working with it every 5 years. So a lot of fantastic work has been done in the community already, thanks to Sandy and her work with the Housing Committee for Economic Development, I think was the name of it. So it was a fairly easy lift to get the plan put forward, and we're excited to work with it in the Planning and Zoning Department. And I think what I would say just additionally to the plan, we are currently rewriting our zoning regulations as well as our subdivision regulations, and elements of the plan can be, if it is adopted, can be very easily integrated into those zoning regulations rewrite. And I hope to have that before the commission sometime in the late fall of this year.
Jamie, thank you for that. I just want to talk a little bit about the meeting last week. We had very good engagement from the public as well as board members, and some suggestions that came out of that, which I think in large measure were to create more definition around some areas and opportunities to change the plan to reflect some nuances that might not have been contemplated. So I know, Jamie, you had, even though I was out of town the end of last week, I know you put together a summary of those points, which this is not a static document. This is a dynamic document. And as Jamie is very fond of saying, as we need to start to integrate some of these documents and these plans and allow them to rise to the level of to inform the plan of conservation and development. So I think this is clearly one of those opportunities going forward. And just because it's being submitted in the form and fashion it is today, it doesn't mean next week or next month we couldn't enhance it or change it to some degree. So Jamie, I don't know if you want to comment on.
I will. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. I think part of my goal as town planner and all planning activities that we engage in is to have them be data driven. One of the requests that I did make to RKG Associates, the consultancy firm that did the majority of the data analysis on our existing housing stock and sort of proposed housing stock in future, was to have them add to the appendix what I refer to as the data drop. So sort of the listing of all the databases that they pulled data from and when that new data becomes available, so that we can easily moving forward as the Census Bureau releases much of that data, we're able to amend it in time. Additionally, I think that there were some local analyses that the group raised last week, particularly around this idea of naturally occurring affordable housing. So we had a fairly in-depth discussion about what deed restricted or government assisted housing means, and that those two things meet the state's definition of quote unquote affordable housing. However, there was an interest in thinking about our one of the strategies is to work with existing building stock and to create, limit any barriers there might be to, through the land use and development process, through the creation of accessory dwelling units. Although these may or may not be deed restricted, depending on the owner. We don't have anything yet in the regs to say they are. They are considered a more affordable type of housing, smaller units, rental units. So I think there's an interest amongst the community for acquiring data around housing and our housing stock that is not quote unquote affordable. And we're happy to try to take that on internally.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, Jamie, the report you pointed out, it had a lot of information, a lot of statistics, a lot of valuable statistics that, you know, I think we've already addressed in this meeting and at the meeting the other night. Changes are coming. So I think to Matt's point that this has got to be a living, breathing program plan. I think this is a great start and has a lot of information in it, and the information will change. And that's an important part of this going forward. But it's great to bring it together every few years like this. It reminds me of the land use inventory thing. I mean, you forget about it for a while, you get so accustomed to it. And to bring it all into one place is really valuable. And to Matt's point, I really compliment you on putting it together.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
As far as concrete next steps, I see in the executive summary, the sort of the action item is we will formalize a housing committee. What would that look like and when do you see that happening?
There is a committee that exists. The committee, Sandy, help me with the name here, for Housing for Economic Development.
Economic Development Plan Committee.
Yep.
But I think formalizing that, opening that up perhaps to additional members, formalizing it in the means that they will have regular meetings, will become basically the body that oversees kind of the updating of the plan. And perhaps other than that, I think the next step would really for that group be to start engaging in the public educational forums around housing and affordable housing.
I think one of the members of the existing committee, MJ Kessner, brought this up about a year ago. We started with, getting the 2 grants from the state about looking for places on transportation routes, and we focused in on that. And then we focused in on one spot, which, as you know, is the Woodruff property, which will happen. And then MJ said, we kind of have to broaden, or she suggested that our committee, it was okay to focus on this one thing because it took a long time to just get that in place, but to look a little more globally throughout the town. So I think having this plan now that we kind of had to develop, but it's a positive thing. And I like the idea of having a committee that, even if it doesn't meet monthly, but it meets bi-monthly or something, so that we can not just be focused on one single thing and a little bit more, and then using the plan to help us with the focus, probably.
I think we need to contemplate officially establishing either a board or a commission to formalize that process, because currently this is an ad hoc group. It's a task force as opposed to a full appointed commission, which would obviously require a charter change or an ordinance to create that entity officially. So I think that's in the offing. Pete's on the phone here, but he's in this meeting via his phone. But I think he would probably agree with me that that would be the formal step, is to
Thank you. That's kind of where I'm going. There are a lot of people who are very interested in making things happen. So I think that would be a great next step, and changing the name, because at this point, it's not about economic development. It's about housing and affordability of housing. but for its
I
own
don't, I
sake.
don't take credit or discredit for the name.
I know, I know, but it's sort of not relevant.
No, I totally
Yes,
agree with
yes.
you. It's a mouthful, and by the time you say it, people's eyes are glazed. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not my point. I mean, it's just not, got nothing to do with the goal of this particular
Right.
area.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that would be great to see maybe a time frame for actually establishing through ordinance or whatever means.
What would
or
we
more
need?
formal.
What would we need to do today to start that process?
I'd rather have Pete weigh in on it first.
Let's
But I think-
plan.
yeah.
Didn't we, for the
We'd
human rights?
have to have a public hearing for the ordinance.
The way it's gonna get done is to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar to what we
Well-
went through relatively recently for Human Rights Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll tee up, we'll see if we can tee up a public hearing in time for the next meeting, prior to our next meeting. I know Tracy and or Pete, that gives us enough time to publicize it, to publish it in the newspaper of local circulation. And Pete can pull together the language. So let's see if we can set that up for our first meeting in June, which I think would be June 6th, right?
excellent. Thank you.
That's keep it going.
Which does that give us? That gives us 3 weeks hence, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's 3 weeks. We ought to be able to accomplish that.
Yep.
Thanks for pushing on that, Charlie. All right. Is there a motion to accept the affordable housing plan as drafted, as Guilford's affordable housing plan for submission, not only for submission to the state of Connecticut, but for our internal planning processes?
I'll move it.
I would like, okay, I'll second it.
See, there you go. Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Are those in the room?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. Jamie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, consider and take possible action on the petition received on May 9th, 2022. We did receive another petition with, I think, had some 60 odd signatures on it.
Would it be possible? I've only got, like half of the first page. Could we get the rest of that maybe after the meeting?
Yeah, I can give it to you, but let me read the call to petition. We, the undersigned electors and citizens qualified to vote at town meetings and referendums of the town of Guilford hereby request the Board of Selectmen to call a special town meeting to discuss and vote on the following item in accordance with the provision of the town charter of the town of Guilford. Item 1, should the basketball courts currently located at the police department campus remain in their current location and the construction of an 80 by 80 foot storage facility be moved to an alternate site, which will allow the basketball courts to remain at their current location. And again, as I said, I think there are some 60 odd signatures on this. Yes, and I think Julie, you're the one that circulated this petition. On the advice of council, it's a similar opinion as was rendered at on the last petition that was submitted to us. This is based on our charter and based on state statute. This is not an actionable item based on for town meeting. We thank you for your continued perseverance. But again, the opinion on the first one is extended to this one as well. So we will not be having a town meeting to address that particular issue. I will be later in this meeting talking about the appointment of members to a committee to study the potential opportunities and or challenges that are presented by what's going on. You should also know that there is a significant amount of activity taking place behind the scenes with the police, fire and police departments, respectively, with engineers and land use planners to accommodate keeping the courts there and satisfying the needs of our public safety entities for storage and housing of equipment and vehicles on the site. So we are working the process, and just so everyone understands, as I've committed to in the past, nothing is going to happen until this sees the full light of day. And if that means that we can't, recommendations of those planners are that we can't accommodate both, that's when we'll move forward with a full-blown examination of what our opportunities are. And so that process will start to take place soon. As I said, I'm going to ask the fellow members to agree on the appointment of this commission. Some in this room are going to participate. And my hope is that group never has to meet. We can accommodate a compromise that allows that group to be effectively moved. However, we are going to move forward with putting it in place in the event that we need to start to use those resources to address the issue. So with that, we'll move on to item 9. Discuss and take possible action authorizing the first selectman to award RFP number 3-2122, the CDBG Community Development Block Grant, for those that are unfamiliar with the acronym, Small Cities Program Application and Program Administration. As you may recall, several years ago, when we hired a consultant, we actually hired 2 consultants. We went out to bid 2 different occasions for someone like this. Lisa Lowe and Associates was the group hired to do the housing rehabilitation project through the Small Cities program, the CDBG Small Cities program, and subsequently we engaged the services of the United Way for another CDBG Small Cities grant for housing diversion. We have lost the services of Lisa Lowe. She unfortunately retired, and we have an opportunity with the Great Hill Cottages to assist them in applying for CDBG funds to extend water up to that facility, largely to satisfy fire protection, because the only access they have to water is a small pond up on that facility. So in order to apply for those funds, you have to have an accredited individual, and we sent out the RFP to a couple of these folks that we know do this, and in particular, there's one that is familiar with the Great Hill Cottages program. So that closes today. The bid opening is today, I think, at 2 o'clock. So in anticipation of us receiving a qualified respondent, we're asking that you authorize me to move forward with that, because there are some tight timelines around the application for these funds for the water infrastructure. So is there a motion to authorize me to enter into to award a contract for the Small Cities program application?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further comments or questions? No.
Thanks for the explanation.
Well, yeah.
And the update. I mean, you're right. I remember this coming through last time. So we're continuing something we're already
Right.
underway.
And we have made this broad enough so that individual can work with us for the next round of housing rehabilitation money. We have exhausted the first round, and we've exhausted the projects on the first round, and actually returned some of the original $440,000 that we received, which means that we are now eligible to apply for another round of that type of funding.
Okay.
All right, like, try your minds. Selectman Renner?
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff?
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Item 10, consider and take possible action to set a public hearing date of June 6th, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. at Town Hall and via Zoom to amend the ordinance for a temporary moratorium on cannabis retail sales in the town of Guilford. The amendment will extend the moratorium to December 31st, 2022. Just let me give you a little bit of backdrop. You may be familiar or may have seen or heard that we have the Zen City polling currently taking place. It's happening in a couple of fashions. It's been posted on our website. There are various folks who are passing it along, and in particular, the day folks are making sure their community gets it. I have not yet gotten an electronic or an opportunity on my phone to participate, but I'm sure that process is well underway. Jamie Stein and I have had a significant number of discussions, as also including Pete Barrett on this. And given the number of items that are currently on Jamie's plate relative to community engagement, we've got this affordable housing plan was one. We've got the zoning rewrite as another, and there's a couple other items that we are contemplating. So Jamie respectfully requested that we move this so that we can have time to more fully engage within the community. So, I agree. And this is extending the moratorium on all forms of fashions, which includes retail sales, distribution, growing, and then manufacturing of various products. So I don't think there's a rush to judgment for us to make a decision on this. We had, I think, only one individual that expressed interest in establishing some type of facility here in town, and that was a production facility. As
It was more on the wholesale side.
Yeah. So, is there a motion to extend? Or not, is there a motion to approve the establishment of the public hearing on June 6th, 2022 for those purposes?
So moved to.
And that's second. Okay, second now. Charlie, comments?
Okay, so this is a public hearing on
Just extending it.
The moratorium on
The moratorium.
sales or production or any of the
Extend.
authorized items that the municipalities have control over approving in their town. Doesn't change any use issue.
Well, my concern is that is one meeting that I may or may not be able to be at. That's my only personal concern, but hopefully I could zoom in or at least hear the public comments. I guess it doesn't.
Well, we could do it. We could do it at the second June meeting if that. Which
I don't want to, change the whole town, just for myself. I will try to zoom in. I will be out of state.
I think it's important that we extend the moratorium because the survey just recently went out, and then we want people to fill it out, and then we want to hear the results of it. And if we were rushing to get this all done, by June 30th? I just think that's not realistic. So I fully support extending the moratorium. And may I just ask a question in the middle of this? I remember when the person from Zen City spoke to us, he was assuring us that he was going to send it to various demographic components of town. So it wasn't just only going to people under 30 or people over 60 or blah, blah, blah. But I had somebody ask me, how can I take this survey? So can anybody take the survey, even if it doesn't? So, and they just, how do they do that?
I believe it's listed on the town website at this point.
Okay, so
Based
any
on here.
whether they got an invitation or didn't, but wish to respond to the survey is free to do so through the town website.
Absolutely.
It's right on the homepage, right in the front, as soon as you get to it. Yep.
So
Okay, thank you.
do we need I agree with Sandy that we need to extend this. Do we need to have a public hearing in order to extend the moratorium? Is that a requirement, or can we just vote to extend it because we're not ready to take any action?
I don't think we had a public hearing to.
Yes, we did. We put it in an ordinance, and we put a sunset date in the ordinance. So in order to change that sunset date, we have to have a public hearing because we're modifying the ordinance.
Okay, I see. And that sunset date was June 30th, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
And I think it might have included language or sooner or later, but based on action of the Board of Selectmen. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to change the date of public hearing just because of my attendance. I will try to zoom in.
Okay.
Regardless of what folks say, I think my response, either for those who say yes, let's allow it now, or no, is that a better informed decision is a better informed decision.
I want to hear from this.
For sure.
Hear the statistics and the data that's being gathered for this.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Okay, item 11, discuss and take possible action to set a public hearing date for June 20th, 2022 on programs to be submitted for the 2022 Neighborhood Assistance Act program. I think most of you are familiar. These are, I think, Sarah is usually one of them that comes in and has a program. And there are usually 3 or 4 entities that we recommend for these for that program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Are those in the room?
Aye.
That's unanimous. That motion carries. Item 12, consider and take possible action on a noise ordinance variance application for movie night at St. George Church on Saturday, June 25th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Sue, second. Okay, any comments or questions?
That sounds nice.
Looks like a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Inflatable movie screen out in the parking lot in the back. I think did they do this once before during COVID? Wasn't there a movie night there one night?
I think
Something,
Yeah.
I don't recall.
I don't know if it was a movie or it was some big event.
I don't know. Anyway. All right, so we have moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions? Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye. People can go to the Lobster Fest and then roll right down.
Oh.
to,
Well done.
Good
just
call,
a little,
Katie.
just a little plug there.
Yeah, a little plug for the Rotary. There you go. All right, try your minds. Did I do that right? No. No,
Not for this.
not for this. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in a row.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
That motion is unanimous and carries. Item 13, appointments and resignations. Act on a recommendation to appoint Elizabeth Kozarek to the Historic District Commission for a term to expire on January 31st, 2027. I would like to table this one for the following reason. This, as you saw, this came in directly from the
RTC.
the RTC, Vice Chairman, and thank you for the RTC making recommendations to fill them. My only question is, and by the way, if you read the CV or the background on Elizabeth Kozarek, she is preeminently qualified to serve on this board. So this is not a question. This is really a question of respect to the current members, because there are alternates on that committee who typically get moved up when a vacancy becomes available on that board or commission. And the current vacancy or soon to be vacancy, because John Cunningham has served 2 full terms, and he is continuing to serve until replaced, which is allowable under state statute. So the opportunity here exists for us to move one of the alternates up, and it's typically the process. So again, as I said, I was out of town the end of last week, and I did not see this packet until yesterday and this recommendation. So I've not had an opportunity to speak to the chair and or any of the other members to determine if that would be their desire to move up to one of those slots. So I'd like to table it if there's a second.
I'll second the motion to table.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That's unanimous. 13.2, act on the appointment of Keith Bishop to the Public Works Commission for a term to begin June 1st, 2022 and expire May 31st, 2026. Is there a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'd be happy to second it. I think there's some symmetry here. Keith is replacing his uncle Gene Bishop, who is term limiting off. And Keith, I'm sure will do a terrific job. As you're aware, he's currently on our Land Acquisition Committee. And I believe he served for 16 years on the Board of Education with Sue. So
Yep. He's one of the most knowledgeable and dedicated individuals I've had the pleasure of working with.
that's great. I've always had high respect for the work he does as well. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 14, request for the use of town property. 14.1 would be an act on request from In a Heartbeat to use the green on July 29th, 2022 for a CPR AED demonstration. I'm gonna ask Sherry, I know that you and I briefly exchanged emails the end of last week whilst out of town. This, I believe, is related to one of the leading manufacturers of these defibrillator AED machines, Hvac, headquartered right here in Guilford. So Sherry, you want to talk a little bit about this, and then, you know, some of the starts and fits that we had with them developing developing Guilford out as a model and for municipal deployment of these defibrillators throughout the community.
Sure, yes. So DefibTech has an arm, I guess, a nonprofit entity that would like to host this little display on the Guilford Green. So they're the ones who have submitted the application, the nonprofit, and they just want to do a demonstration. So that's what that is. And then the other thing that Matt's talking about is when I first started here, after Brian left, Matt and I had a chat with DefibTech sort of as a business retention meeting. And out of that meeting, we ended up discussing DefibTech donating an AED to the town to put somewhere outside so that the public could have access to it. We do have AEDs in some of our buildings. The community center has one. I know the marketplace has one, but the idea was to have one that was accessible 24/7. Since then, I've been working with some of our departments in town to try to identify the perfect location for one of these AEDs. And we haven't yet found that. There's complicated factors like needing electricity, having a secure location, and so forth. Plus, you want to put one somewhere where it could be, I guess, best utilized. Would that be at Bittner Park, where there's a lot of sporting activities? Would that be near the Guilford Green? And so we're still working that out. But they did, want to donate an AED and the housing that would go with it to the town. So we're still working towards that end.
They have made a number of donations of the equipment, if I understand correctly, around town and the schools and so on.
Yeah, they donated one to the library.
Yeah. And I did also Google in a heartbeat, because I always have a concern when I see a request for the use of the green, just to make sure that there's no commercial element to it. And clearly it's not. I mean, In a Heartbeat is fully a separate 501c3 organization. It does extensive fundraising on its own and a lot of good in the community. So I'm all in favor of this, and I guess that's a motion.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
I second that.
Second, and Sue, you're absolutely right. The DefibTech, I think, donated a unit in memory of Marlene Rosa from the formerly the food center. She was the baker. Best hard rolls that I've ever had. That's another story. Anyway, let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner.
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
That motion is unanimous and carried and covered. All right, item 15, committee reports. I'm not sure we have anything to report at this point, although it may not necessarily be committee report, but it's a follow-up to the Woodruff property. Jamie and I had the opportunity to meet with NeighborWorks New Horizons, and they delivered some pretty good news that they are anticipating breaking ground this fall. Jamie, I think they mentioned that they finally secured all the funding they need and are looking to move forward. There's also, my understanding is there's an opportunity that on the redesign that there could be more than the 16 units, that they may be able to accommodate an additional 4 or 6 units on that with that design. So the question that comes to mind there, and I forgot to ask it when it was brought to my attention that there was an opportunity for that, do they have to go back through design review and planning and zoning for if they are actually adding units?
Thanks, Matt. I think that the team was already contemplating going back before design review just to kind of shore up and get their architecturals to that point. But the question you're asking about the increased number of units, I'd have to look at what was approved. Typically, that's a significant modification, and if it does require going before the Planning and Zoning Commission again, I'd be happy to, work with the board so that that can be done
think,
as expeditiously as possible.
I think, it would be great to have more units, but there's Jamie, you understand this, so does everyone. There's parking issues and septic issues and aesthetic issues. So I'm not against more units, but I think that will raise some questions with the public again. And I don't think that we've ever seen the final rendition of the design. I don't think so.
Right.
So
And I think the
we
team,
definitely need, it would be amazing to break ground in the fall, but I think we don't want to have the public think, my God, we were supposed to know a little more about this and now they're building them. You know what I mean? Public perception is positive, as far as I know. But we had that very affirmative meeting just before COVID in February 11th of 2020. And really, it hasn't been in front of the public's minds that much. It's mentioned from time to time, but so I guess I'm not trying to throw water on any of this. I'm thrilled that it's going to, finally happen. Does that mean that some of the funding is now in place?
Yes, they indicated the funding is in place,
Okay.
not just some of it, that they're prepared.
Okay.
right. So if I might, Selectwoman Ruoff, so they do intend to go before the design review committee again, which I think would be, sort of the public setting to see those renderings and see the aesthetics. I also think that I could reach out to the team and just have them get internally a preliminary review to look at parking and septic and all of those restrictions to see if it is feasible.
And I think our existing committee needs to be, we haven't had a meeting in 2 years either. So we need to, everybody's excited about this and they'll be happy to have this meeting, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just have a similar comment, I think, to Sandy's, which is when I saw that there was a suggestion that perhaps there would be more units, without going through exactly every single step that would be needed, that would be the type of change that I would be really concerned about just happening. So if that's already the works and it's going to happen and they do need to go back to P&Z and be heard, then great. But the idea that there would just be some additional units because they could make it fit would be a concern.
Well, I think Jamie brings up a good point. I'm not sure, I'm not sure that the original approval specifically said 16 units, or, because the original discussion, I think, was around 22.
With a number of buildings.
With a number of buildings, et cetera. So, but Jamie's on the case.
Okay.
Yeah, I think some of it was depending on whether they were 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom.
Right.
And 2 bedroom and 3 bedroom get more points in this kind of a project, but then that reduces the number of units, But if you're looking to for single parents with children, you want some 2 or 3 bedroom as opposed to just all 1 bedroom. So it's kind of a trade-off as to the size of the units versus the number of the units.
Right, and I see Jamie nodding her head in agreement. We've had several discussions, and I agree wholeheartedly with Jamie that the affordable housing plan indicated saying that we do not have enough multiple bedroom, 2 and 3 bedroom. That's where the demand is for housing in general, in addition to affordable housing. So,
but to Sandy's point, wouldn't that reduce the number of units? I'm confused by that.
It might, yes.
It would reduce the number of units. However, it would satisfy the demand in the market for multiple bedroom units.
And
so.
I honestly support that because especially now with the Hubbard Road project, which I was hoping might get modified into some of them being 2 bedrooms, but so far that hasn't happened. So if we're about to create 100 1-bedroom apartments, I think it's really important to have this particular project offer 2 and 3 bedrooms as well. So that's my 2 cents.
Agreed. I think there's consistent thinking across the board on this. So, all right, correspondence. I had one, and I apologize. This was in a orange folder in my in basket this morning. So
I think we all know.
And I did not get a chance to scan it, but Charlie, this is This is a request from Linda Balistraci who is asking that we consider the family's purchase of a new bench for the green and to affix a plaque to it that and with an inscription that would read, Carl A. Balistraci Jr., 1940 to 2019, educator, first selectman, historian. He loved his hometown. And I will get this out to Sandy and Sue. We'll get that out to you today. You know, for those who knew, most everyone here, I think, knew and loved Carl for his commitment to his community and what he had done over the years. And this technically qualifies as something that this board could accept. As I think you're all aware, we had made a commitment to purchase additional benches for the green. And they are proposing that they would actually purchase one of these benches. The family would, in order to meet the qualifications and then have that plaque affixed. There are others out there. I think Donnie Papa is one of them that comes to mind immediately. I walk by that bench every time I head over to the shops on the other side of the green. So let me get this out to you, and we'll put this on the agenda for our June 6th meeting for discussion and possible action. And we will I'll also reach out to the Green Committee for their perspective.
Okay.
Right. Okay, old business. As I mentioned earlier, I have a list of folks who I would like to appoint to a task force on studying the basketball / storage conundrum. And the individuals who I am asking to appoint from the public, there's 3 that have indicated, or there are several that indicated, but there are 3 that I've had some follow-up with. Kim Guile, Jeff Bernardo. Jeff Bernardo, interestingly enough, was the president of the Guilford Youth Basketball League when those courts were constructed, and GBL actually contributed funds to it. But interestingly enough, his perspective is, which I appreciate, he says he would hate to see him go, but if the overarching needs of the community dictate that that is the best solution, we have to go find the best possible solution to replace them. So very measured in his correspondence with me. Tim Sperry indicated to me that he'd be willing to serve. And then from the boards and commissions that we talked about, Lou has volunteered from this board. Bob Hartman has volunteered from the Board of Finance. He just keeps volunteering for everything. He's a go-to guy. Also, we're going to stay in the Federici family. A representative from the Police Commission, Kerry Federici, has agreed to participate. And then Brad Kronstadt from Park and Rec. And I still haven't gotten someone from Fire Department yet, but I anticipate getting that shortly. And then obviously the respective leadership of the Police Department and Fire Department, either in the personage of the chiefs or their deputy chiefs. I have a suspicion that deputy chiefs will be, will probably be relegated to that role. So is there a motion to appoint those individuals to the basketball court, public safety consideration for storage and basketball courts?
I'll move.
Second. In terms of general comment, as I mentioned earlier to Julie, it is my hope that we never have to convene that committee. That we may, I actually was talking to both chiefs a week and a half ago, and it looks like we are getting close to having some kind of compromise. But I don't want to promise that. Again, it's one piece of it is I think easily accommodated. That would be for the fire department. The second piece, which is police department, is a little trickier. So. But anyway, let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner.
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in a row. Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals. Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, anybody else with old business? New business? Public forum before we go into executive session? I think it's got to be part of executive session on the elderly tax.
Yes.
Yes.
Denial of my tax, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, anyone, public forum?
From the viewing audience?
Well, I see Bill Revere is here, but he intends to participate at some point in the executive session.
Got it.
Okay. I think if you see it.
Is that everybody?
So, Bill, what I'm gonna ask is, if you could get off and then go back on. Could you give us an email address or a telephone number? Throw it in the chat function and Tracy can pick it up so that we can call you, because we have an individual who is already here. And then we'll bring you on, we'll give you a heads up and either a call or an email. You tell us how you want to be contacted in order for you to log back into the meeting.
Certainly.
Thank you. Or you just want to give it to Tracy, yeah, just give, rather than the chat function, just unless you don't want to share it with the public.
No, I'm fine. I can put it in the chat function.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so for the purposes of executive session, it'll be the three of us in the room, the two, Sandy and Sue, and your name?
Carolyn Maloney.
Carolyn Maloney, to be invited into this executive session, and we will be bringing Bill Revere in at the appropriate time. Good. All right, is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
And a
Second.
second, thank you. Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. It's unanimous. Let's go in. Take a break. Take a quick Trace. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
That motion carries. During executive session, there were no motions made, no actions taken. As a result, we were discussing the appeals from residents in accordance with section 247-31 right of appeal, Article 7 elderly tax relief program. And is there a motion to approve the requests of the three applicants who were denied to
So
second?
I'll second.
Let me try your minds. Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, recusal, saying none, motion carried. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Good. Second,
Second.
non-debatable motion, Selectwoman Renner,
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff. Aye. And those in the room?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Well done.
Take care.